Hey everybody, Bryn here. Welcome back to another video. Looks like today we're playing the Semi-Slav, and that is exciting. The problem is, whenever we play the Semi-Slav, or play like under 1500, I'd say, it's just so much less common to see d4. So whenever we do get to play against it, it's kind of a breath of fresh air, in my opinion. So yeah, we're playing d5 and c6. Our opponent is going into a normal Slav, and that is exciting to me. We'll continue with knight to f6, just going into our normal position here. Hey, this is, I think, the closest thing we've gotten to the main line. Wow. Knight bd7. Are they going to play e3? Do they know their theory? They might know their theory, which is pretty cool. Wow. Okay, so now we're at an impasse. Okay, we have some options, and I'm going to go for one of the most theoretically dense options. You can play something like bishop to e7 here, or even taking on c4, which is actually probably even more dense. Like here, if you take on c4, that's the Botvinnik, and maybe we should cover that next time we get this, but I'm going to go for the Cambridge Springs. This is something that I know quite okay, and it's a very effective move. That's very annoying. So what you're going for here is you're going for a position where it's very easy to win material here. And in doing so, you do have to have some concessions. So positionally, black is going to be worse, but tactically and material-wise will be okay. So the first move to look at is knight to e4, threatening to take on g5 and c4. This looks like the best option here. Knight to e4, if they end up taking with the bishop, we can actually just take back, attacking the knight, and removing the defender of the bishop. So they do have to respond to this somehow. And bishop d3, I don't believe is so accurate. I think normal moves here are, I've seen queen d2, queen c2, I think. But bishop d3, I'm struggling to remember. Yeah, so here, the problem is it looks like they actually lose a piece. And that is because of the move knight takes on g5. Do we end up taking on c4 first? I don't think so. That looks bad. So let's take here. And now we can take on c4. And the problem is their bishop is attacked and their knight is attacked, unfortunately. They can try queen to h5 to defend, but unfortunately that doesn't quite work. And now we end up winning the knight on g5, and we have a winning position. So this move queen a5 is just such a nice and comfortable move to play. Normally you don't play it in the Carlsbad structures, which this kind of is close to, but it's obviously a different scenario here. So I'm not sure if I want my queen back on d8 or if I want it somewhere else. If I play bishop d6, then knight e4 is a problem. Bishop e7, then knight e4, I can't actually go back to e7 or d8. But I don't think that's a problem. I think I'm just going to play it. If knight e4, I at least have queen a5 as well. But I'm looking at something more aggressive, like queen to h6. Keeping my options open. Ultimately, I think after knight e4, queen a5 is probably just going to be best. So I imagine I'll end up playing that. Yeah, let's play knight to f6 here. Our queen is like a little weird, right? Normally you don't see the queen on g5, but the thing is it's totally fine here. And we're just going to continue developing. Yeah, I don't think we've done anything wrong. Of course, we won a piece, so if anything, we've done a lot of things right. And how will we see the position continue? So now that I've castled, I am looking at opening things up a bit more. So, of course, the problem piece is this guy on b7. There's a few ways we can try opening it up. There's like a6, b5, and then c5, which we have done against the Catalan before. We can also try b6, bishop b7, which is a bit more tame, but it looks still quite effective. And yeah, maybe because of this move, we should consider b6, bishop b7, and then c5. There is also an argument towards e5, trying to open up the position like this, because d5 is technically possible, but we'll be fine in those positions. I'm gonna give myself the chance to develop on the long diagonal though with b6, I think. Or should I? b6, c5 you see a lot in these positions, so that's why I'm considering it. But b6, queen f3, for example, all of a sudden bishop b7. There might be some b5 stuff. I don't think it hurts us, right? Rook c8, for example. It actually might be a nice thing because our biggest problem in these positions is this c pawn. Yeah, I'm all for it. Let's play b6. We do have to consider it for a little bit and make sure that it is okay, that we're not, messing anything up. But I don't really see too many drawbacks. In fact, there's some strengths. For example, if they don't tend to this potential threat of, I think queen f3 is the best way to deal with it. They could run into some problems. For example, after bishop to b7, when we play c5, not only can they not take because, well, then things start just coming off when we're also up material. Okay, wow, they found queen f3, which is good. But the other problem is when we played c5, if we got the chance to, then they would actually be running into some mate threats on g2. So here, bishop to b7, of course. If they play anything like bishop to b5 or knight to b5, I imagine we just take it. We could also play knight to d5 as well, to help prepare some sort of c5. I'd say b5 is still the most interesting option, where rook c8 is almost forced. Yeah, b5. This is very effective, I think. So we should probably still go rook to c8 here. And if takes, we can actually just take with the rook. I think that's going to be the best option. The reason why is because we're attacking a bunch of stuff on this file, and we're not afraid to trade off the light square bishops here. Of course, we can take with the bishop as well, which looks really strong. And maybe something we do. Yeah, let's actually consider taking like this. Because after we take with the bishop, if they go queen g3, which is kind of forced, maybe e4 is playable, but then there's bishop takes e4. Oh, bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4. There's bishop takes e6. Interesting. Let's take with the bishop anyways. They probably have to play e4 here to not just completely lose everything. Queen g3, the problem is takes, pawn takes, and then there's bishop takes g2, where if they take on c4, yeah, and it looks like this is the variation we're going to go into. So we can just take on g2 here, and they have a ton of stuff hanging. Maybe we can actually just move away, like bishop to b7 anyways, because, well, they actually have a ton of stuff hanging, so we don't need to do a desperado if there's too many things undefended. So bishop b7 is definitely good enough, actually. See, when you find a good move, look for a better one sometimes. If you notice undefended pieces in a position, like the knight on c3 and the bishop on c4, looking at these moves, like bishop b7 instead of g2, is also really important, because noticing things like this, and like even if it works or like but it's not as good, that's how you know you're developing a tactical eye for things. And of course, it is a tactic you have to look for, because for example, if this knight were somewhere else, like say e2, then taking on g2 does make the most sense, because, well, then we are giving a discovered attack on the bishop. Of course, they do have counter sacrifices like taking on e6, but, well, you know. So bishop to b7. The problem is they would love to play something like rook ac1, takes, and then knight to d5, giving a discovered attack where if I take, then they can take on e7, but I don't have to actually take. After rook takes c4, knight to d5, I can actually take with the pawn, which defends my rook. So we'll have to see what our opponent does here. But it does look like we're winning another piece. Cambridge Springs is very effective. My opponent knows some good development schemes. I don't know if that was a theoretical thing that they knew or if that was just focusing on natural development, but either way, I'm impressed. This Queen A5 move is very tricky. They focused on natural development, which was their problem. Queen A5 forces them to find some strange moves that they might not want to play. So that's one of the benefits of it. Next time, I'll study up on the Botvinnik for you guys. Okay. But I'm telling you right now, this is what I play in tournaments. And hey, I just hit over 2,000. I'm like 2,060. I gained what was it, 70 points from my last tournament actually, which was good. I had a pretty good event. Ended up drawing an IM, beating an NM, and doing pretty okay. I think I had like a 2,200 performance rating or something. Anyways, yeah, and this is something I would play in a tournament if I were to get it. So you're getting my my ultimate prep. So of course we take there. We could take on E3 as well. I'm not really finding a problem with it. There's not a good discovery. It's not like they have a check, right? If they had a check, that'd be annoying, but I don't see one. And now I want to take on G3 if they let me. Because if I can take on G3, then G2 is also weak. So we should be okay. All right. Yeah, we'll take on G3 here. They could go Rook C7, but after taking on G2 with check, maybe we should avoid that. Just play Bishop to D5, right? If Rook to C7, we want to make sure we're not losing anything. I'll go Bishop takes on A3, maybe? It's always Bishop to B4 to get this guy. There's also Bishop D6. Because if King F2, then there's actually Bishop takes on G3 check. King takes, and then we can take on E1. It's just a trade. Lots of calculation in this one, in this game. But calculation's important, right? It's what helps you with your chess. I actually released a video recently. I'm playing Knight C7. There's a very good reason. It's to actually prevent anything coming to the 7th ring in the future. So I can just start taking things. It's got on the only open file. Or no, no, I don't want to play that. I'll play. Actually, that's a good move because they want to go F5, displace some of my pieces. I have a trick. B5. F5 is probably best, but my idea is after taking, I want to see if they go Rook A1 or not. This is a trick move. It's still a good move, though. Don't get me wrong. The idea of B5, we're going to see in a moment because I think they're going to fall into it. But it also allows B4. But I'm actually going to play something a little different to see if they fall for it. They don't, but it's okay because we're still winning. So what I was expecting is Rook takes A7, which allows Bishop takes D4 check, winning the Rook on A7. However, here, after Rook to B1, it's still okay because we still take with check and we just play B4. So we still keep our material. But finding those types of moves is really nice because Knight C3. I don't know why I missed that. That was really silly. Sorry about that. But yeah, looking for those types of moves is just so useful. It doesn't really hurt you at all to add those types of tricks in because, well, our opponent's already in a spot where they're losing and they know they're losing. So they're much more likely to just make mistakes and make rash decisions. So adding traps in positions is actually a very good strategy. So keep that in mind. And yeah, good game. So the only way we could have improved was the Knight to C3, I believe. But let's look at things a little bit. So when we played the opening, we don't even need the eval bar for this because I already kind of know most of this stuff. So yeah, Bishop to D3 isn't really the move. And the problem is Knight E4. For example, if you play something else as well, like A3, I actually had this someone, oh, sorry. Let me change it. There we go. I actually had this played against me in a tournament before, this a3 move, and after knight to e4, they played queen a4, I think, and this was a very strong player too. They just didn't know the theory here. You can run into a lot of problems, and I don't want to make this like a theory thing, like, oh yeah, if you know these special moves, you win the game. That's never the case. Even if you know a ton of theory, you can still lose these games if your opponent plays practical moves. I actually had that happen to me. I went down like 22 moves of theory in the Cambridge Springs, which is this line, and I ended up in a position, and I just like slightly misplayed things over and over and over again, and then just lost despite having like 2 pawns up and looking like I just had a clear advantage. So yeah, don't get too hyped up about the opening. You got to work on your other stuff too. And that lesson, or that game, was a good lesson of that, which I'm not sure if you... I think that game is out for you guys, actually, so I'll put it in the description for you all. But queen a5, bishop to d3. But again, if they play anything, for example, a3, this move knight e4 is still really annoying, because, well, it's a threat of some sort of like liquidation. And for example, here I think after b4, there's even bishop takes b4, which is another case of there just being problems, right? Like if you keep trying to defend like rook c1 takes on d2, queen d2, you think it's working until you see knight a2. But it's not the tactical stuff here that matters. It's more so the fact that this move requires some sort of defense of the knight. I think queen c2 is playable. I think knight to d2 I've even seen. And I think those are the moves. If I check the opening database, yeah, knight to d2, c takes d5, and even bishop takes f6 has been played, which I don't think is really that challenging at all. Black scores better in those games. But yeah, knight to d2 and c takes d5 are the most challenging, and there's some really good games in this line here. For example, after queen d2, bishop b4, rook c1, takes, bishop a3, and rook b1. Even though there's not a ton of games in this specific variation, this is like one of the top level lines in the Semi-Slav, especially for the Cambridge Springs. So if you don't do that, then you have to go into like these knight to d2 lines, bishop to b4, and queen c2, and things get crazy. I'd recommend looking into that yourself if you're more interested in the Semi-Slav. Maybe after I'm done my Berlin Endgame 10-hour video, I'll do a deep dive of the Semi-Slav or something. I don't know. So yeah, maybe as a 10,000 subscriber special, right? But anyways, yeah, so just kind of like a heads up that the biggest problem is they played natural moves, and it's really hard to fault them for that. So my opponent played extremely well, but unfortunately we just ended up in a better position. So that's going to cover it for this game. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye-bye.